Welcome once again to the Underdark, my personal favorite Dungeons & Dragons setting, and one whose aesthetic has been interpreted many different ways throughout books, movies, and video games. Like many of you, I recently played Baldur's Gate 3, and I really like the way it's presented there. So much so that I decided to try my hand at bringing their art direction into real life. So what I have for you today is a short film documenting that adventure. And what an adventure it was. I tried some new materials, techniques, and painting styles to bring this to life, and I am excited to share it all with you.
Hello everyone, Wylock here. Thank you for clicking on this video. Longtime viewers will know that I've visited the Underdark before. Some years ago I made modular tiles. I was very happy with how those came out, as well as some scatter terrain, small pieces to put on those tiles. But today, we are using footage and stills from Baldur's Gate 3, and we're going to try to replicate the art direction, or at least be inspired by it, in making some new scatter terrain. I'm also including light this time around, and it's a little hard to tell on camera, but these do glow from underneath. See? So go get yourself your favorite beverage or snack and settle in, and let's go to the workbench.
Right off the bat, we know that the mushrooms are going to be the centerpiece. It's what the Underdark's known for, among other things. So I'm looking for all sorts of curved shapes, hemispheres and ovals and things like that, to act as forms to drape something over to make the body of the mushroom cap. My original intention was to use paper towel or toilet paper and watered down white PVA glue in a spray bottle. I tried draping the paper before and after spraying it. Either way, it just ended up turning to mush and tearing with the slightest bit of pressure. It was also retaining that printed texture it has, and in order to get rid of that, I need to sort of work at it like clay with my finger, but that would cause it to tear. I suppose I could have tried, 10 layers of this stuff, but then it's going to take 4 days to dry, and I just don't have that kind of time. So I bought this super sculpey oven-baked clay about 6 years ago and then never used it. I'm happy to say it has kept its shelf life. It works perfectly fine. I hate working with clay. This is probably the second or third time I've ever used any sort of clay, but these are really simple shapes. Shouldn't require much sculpting skill at all, which is good because I have none. So I rolled out pancakes and then pressed them over my curved forms. This gave me the different sizes and shapes and different concavities for different mushroom caps. On a few of them, I sliced away some slivers to sort of match that source image from the video game, and also lightly scored, not all the way through, just a light surface scoring all the way around the perimeter. On some of them, I rolled up the end, sort of like this. I don't know. If it doesn't work out, I'll throw it away. So I made a bunch of these and into the oven they go. I don't remember what the box says for cook time, but I remember the first batch didn't work. They came out too brittle. So I doubled the cook time on my second batch and they came out great. Durable and strong. And now for the trunks. I'm going to use more of this low gauge wire. Very thick stuff, bendable. I don't want straight trunks mostly. I want them to be sort of curved. So this will be a great core for the shape. At this point I had a decision to make, electronics or not, and I decided yes. I like to harvest from Christmas lights. It's very economical. And all these circuits are manually assembled, including the resistor. I did a whole video on how to design your own LED circuit, so I'm not going to belabor that point here. I'll put a card on the screen. You can go watch it if you like. And I don't know if these are going to be bright enough. The idea is that the underside of the mushroom will be illuminating downwards, but we'll see. Oh, and I found these oyster shells in my bin. Been waiting a few years to do something with these. They'll make a good different kind of mushroom cap. Just like the video game, I want to have a whole bunch of different types of species of mushroom in the piece. So I'm going to mount some lights in those and just put them aside for now. Back to the main trunks. I wrapped my lead wires around that thick wire core, then began wrapping it with cheap painter's tape. I deliberately wrapped it on kind of loose so that it would bunch up once you squeeze it, basically using it the way that you usually don't want to use it. I just need to bulk up the trunk a bit here. And once it's, 3/8 of an inch thick, something like that, I began slathering the outside with hot glue. To help keep it smooth and facilitate anti-dripping, I immediately submerged it in a tub of water. This flash hardens it and gives it a nice smooth bulbous texture. After leaving a bit of length on the wire to solder on the LED, I basically made a little pond of hot glue in the top of the mushroom cap and stuck the trunk in. Now this needs to be very strong, so I used a lot of hot glue and just held it in place for like 5 minutes till it was absolutely cooled and hardened. It was a pain, but I had on a podcast and time went by pretty quick, and it was worth it because these are extremely strong and durable. They don't waver at all. Alright, I got those done and I have the LEDs masked off with a little bit of tape, so I'm going to take these outside to be primed with God's gift to humanity, Rust-Oleum 2X Flat Gray Primer. Well, now it's time for the base work, and I hate base work. It's really an annoyance to me. I've made sets of scatter terrain before, like jungles and volcanoes and forests, and what I've found is when you have all of them that are mostly the same shape, like a circle-ish or oval-ish, it's hard to make a natural path, like to have an encounter in. So I think I'm going to make sure I do more interesting shapes for the base, like the footprint should be a peanut, or like a curve, like a dog leg, something like that. Also, verticality, varying alteration. If there's anything I've learned from Baldur's Gate 3, it's that I can improve my encounters with some verticality. With big, bold pieces of scatter terrain that have a lot of height to them, I can better sell the illusion. Also, maybe there's some of you out there who watch these videos and want to try some of it yourself. I know a lot of places in the world don't have access to this, XPS, extruded polystyrene, also known as home insulation. So I'm going to use this white expanded foam, the kind you see that's used for packing, and see how well it works. Because really I just need bulk for the scatter terrain. I'm going to use Sculptamold on top for texture anyway. Let's carve some bases. I'm using my Proxen hot wire table. One could use a handheld hot wire cutter that's much cheaper. I actually don't own one, so I'm doing this the hard way. Next, I realized that assembly-wise, I need to attach these oyster mushroom things as outcrops, turbines to speed, photons to aft. And since this foam is so fragile and not dense, it's easy to drill through with a kebab skewer. So I did. This will hide the lead wires. For actually mounting the thing, this expanded white styrene melts very easily, so the tip of the hot glue gun did a fairly good job at carving out a channel before depositing some hot glue in there and sticking the oyster in. Eventually though, I switched to a soldering iron. It's a lot more powerful. I also set my hot glue gun to low. Then from the corner of my eye, I saw over on my tool shelf a heat gun that I've never used before. Given how fragile this stuff is, I wonder if it could be used. And lo and behold, yes it can. I am sure I'm not the first one to discover this, but wham, look at that. It went kind of quick, so here I'll show it again, but you get instant alien looking, bizarre, craggy cliff facing. Fantastic. It also hardens up nicely and cures. You can't pick at it anymore and have white beads fall away. Nice. And now what us miniature modelers call that grade A Colombian Bam Bam. Yes, Sculptamold. Good stuff. I used it only on the horizontal surfaces. I'm gonna leave those weird heat-blasted cliff faces exposed. Now I covered the oysters, I also need some other weird geometries. Seashells. Paint up some seashells, they're gonna look good in the Underdark. Easy as, so I'm gonna have those in my back pocket. Also, pasta. Most pastas will work. Penne rigate is what I've used in the past for my Underdark terrain. I'm going to use it again here. Chops pretty nicely, and I like to inject it full of some hot glue just for strength. Also, this green mat you see here, this is a large silicone mat. I'm going to dribble out some large pools of hot glue and just let them set. Let them cool exactly as is for like 10 minutes. They pick away very nicely. And then with a kebab skewer, which I broke in a few places to give it a weird looking shape, I glued that to the underside of these discs and coated up with hot glue. There we go. Some nice toadstool caps. Alright, well yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about this. That's a lot of cool shapes in the mix, so let's get to painting. When I do my base coating, I tend to use the cheap acrylic craft paints that you'll find at like a Michael's or any crafting supply store. 2 solid coats gives a nice flat chalky finish. This clay takes paint very well, though you can see that my thumbprints are very obvious in some places. Couldn't really see them while I was, quote, sculpting, but apparently it is very sensitive and will pick up on those micro details. But that's okay. As I was painting, I was consulting my source images from the video game. There's lots of plums, there's lots of blues, and there's lots of vibrant yellows. There's also some strong orangey red moments. Actually, really the only color that's not predominant is green. So I'm going to exclude green from all my painting, and then I should have something pretty closely approximating the aesthetic of the video game, the art direction of the video game. The airbrush is essential here. I use an Iwata HPCS. It's in my affiliate storefront link if you're interested in one yourself. Other than a hot glue gun, I would say it is the most important tool in my terrain crafting arsenal. An airbrush is a life changer and worth investing in if you're on the fence about it. The answer will always be yes. My general approach was to mix up a lighter color of whatever base color I was on and spritz some spots to give it the effect of glowing. I also made use of some Army Painter speed paints. Army Painter is a friend of the channel and they did supply these. I did a whole video on them some months back. They are probably my third most important life changer for all things miniature terrain crafting. In the past, I would have mixed up a wash, but these just have so much more vibrance that it's worth it to me to use them on large areas like these mushroom trunks. And I also employed the whole typical trick bag. I did some kitchen sponging, I did some dry brushing, some edging, all kind of stuff to make these basically flat surfaces look more complex than they are. Painting is fun, and results are in the eye of the beholder, but if you happen to be like me, who was for a long time frustrated with the blandness of my final outcomes, my answer is you can't be afraid of the bold colors. Use paints that look overly vibrant. They're gonna dry duller than they look, and later when everything is together in context, it will work. You've just got to be bold. And remember, if you're a 3D printer, you must check out Heroes Horde and their outstanding selection of models for your tabletop gaming, including the original True Tiles lines. It's Friday. I just got home from work, and now the step of this project I've been so looking forward to. Assembly. Just look at all these little subcomponents I've made that now I get to sculpt a world with. Just look at them. Really look at them. It is a panoply of options, a veritable cornucopia of creativity. Taste the rainbow. And so now, just as a person might savor a fine wine, I'm going to leisurely assemble these terrain pieces. And one final big effort, this carved out area that I planned on for a water feature. I'm going to airbrush in some lavender, then a solid purple just hitting the center of the pond to create the illusion of depth. For resin, I prefer Art and Glow. This has served me well for, I guess, 9 years now. You gotta mix and mix and mix till you think it's all set, then mix for 5 minutes more, just to be safe. Otherwise, it will cure sticky. I'm tinting it with some India inks, a few drops of magenta, a few drops of violet, and now here we go with the resin pour. This is an ASMR resin pour. That is resin, and it is being poured. And there we go, nice beautiful purple pool. Why purple? Because. Now let's set all 5 of these pieces up in a scene and get an idea of what they look like in full context. Did you know that the Underdark was first introduced in 1978 in the D series of modules, Descent into the Depths of the Earth? It is underground and bizarre and creepy, but did you know that it's over 20 miles deep? And that many legendary locations, such as the drow city of Menzoberranzan, is only 2 miles below the surface. Much of the massive continent-wide series of caverns is imbued with the Fairsris, which is a magical radiation found only in the Underdark. This accounts for that indefinable, sourceless lavender haze that hangs in the air, and it affects magic and spellcasting in unpredictable ways, much like a sorcerer's wild magic. Many aberration-type monsters make the Underdark their home, including aboleths, beholders, cloakers, darrow, drow, duergar, dwarves, illithids, kuotoa, quaggoths, and rock gnomes. Civilization is possible here for surface dwellers, thanks to the diverse population of flora and fauna. Mushrooms of all kinds supply the necessities, including nutrients and even lumber in the case of the zirkwood mushroom. Some are quite dangerous, like bibberbangs, which explode when approached.
Hey, if you're not subscribed, please take that half second to click the button. My sub view ratio is way out of whack. You could click the reminder bell, but don't bother because it doesn't work anyway. And all my resource links are in the video description below, including things like merch and recommended tools and materials and stuff like that. If this video is your first exposure to making stuff for your tabletop gaming, be sure to find us on Facebook, the Tabletop Crafters Guild. Over 40,000 members doing the same sort of thing. Thanks for watching. Till next time, venture forth, and I am Wylock. Make things and play games.